Hey guys, welcome back to the Cast and Spear podcast. Today we have back on the show Lenny Logsdale at Aquatic Apes, one of the best YouTube creators out there and one of my favorites to watch all the time. Today we're going to do a deep dive into making videos. We're going to cover software, editing techniques, and all that jazz. Welcome to the show, Lenny.
Cool. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. So if you can I know yesterday we talked about storytelling, and I thought that was like a brilliant little masterclass right there, but now that you have the footage, now that you have the story, how are we turning this into like a really good watchable video?
I wish I knew that answer consistently. Where can we start? So first of all, video editing software. I don't think it really matters. Maybe if you're making a professional documentary, I don't know anything about that. But for YouTube and your own personal videos, don't worry about whatever it is. You can edit your video on the TikTok software. You can edit it on I think DaVinci Resolve is free. You can download. Final Cut Pro is a couple $100. Premiere Pro is, I think, a couple $100 a month. Don't worry about it. Any of those can work fine, because the most valuable tool in editing software is the ability to cut a clip and delete parts of it and put other clips next to each other, which every single piece of software does. Even to this day, I use Final Cut, which I think it was $300 one-time fee. But and they say, oh, Final Cut's not as good as Premiere Pro because it does all these other things. I have no idea. I can't imagine wanting something that Final Cut doesn't offer. I'm curious what Premiere Pro does that Final Cut doesn't do, because I'm only using like 3% of the functions that Final Cut offers. It's all about the story and the order of your clips. And I don't know, maybe Premiere Pro has some fancy transitions or something. I honestly can't even imagine what they offer. Whatever it is, you don't need it. It doesn't matter for your YouTube video.
It's funny because I started with iMovie, then I got into Final Cut Pro, and then all of my editing buddies told me you got to go to Premiere. And then I tried to cut my teeth on that for like a year and a half. And it's just, to me, way more complex than it needs to be. Like you said, they did, I feel like Final Cut did a Pareto analysis of Premiere and just made it like so that everything that you really need, the 20% of goodies, is just there. Yeah. And you can just do it. But absolutely. I don't think it really matters on the editing software.
Yeah, the Pareto. So what do you use now?
I use Final Cut Pro when I can. Yeah. I have an editor that helps me sometimes. He uses Premiere, but I'm like we were talking offline, I'm switching more towards like doing the videos myself. Like I do all the TikTok videos myself. Like I do all that kind of short form because I just enjoy doing that. I use Rush. That's an Adobe Rush program, and then just export it to TikTok. But I don't do enough shorts. It's hard. I feel like the amount of shorts that you did really did kind of help the storytelling, which I probably should focus more on shorts because you have to be so concise, like you were saying the other day.
Shorts are good practice. One, because it's like a day project usually, which is nice because like you can churn a lot out, get a lot of practice in, and it really, really forces you to be concise, which I think is important even for longer YouTube videos. And the algorithm's different for them. The thumbnail doesn't matter, obviously. The first 4 seconds of your short is the thumbnail on both YouTube and on TikTok. Because like when someone swipes, they don't know what video is coming, and they don't think, oh, I'm going to click this spearfishing video. They're just swiping from a TikTok dance to your video. And so it forces you to have an extra interesting intro. And even now I'm building these longer videos on my channel, and I hate doing the thumbnails, man. It's so stressful because I'm so new at it. It usually doesn't matter, and like it's just as important as your video, which is crazy to me. But
if you want to get into thumbnails and titles, I for the longest time did not respect them. Like I was just like, oh, I put so much effort into the video. Like that's not the. Of course, the title and thumbnail is not going to be what people. It's like judging a book by its cover. But then I realized everybody judges a book by its cover, and if you don't get the click, you don't get the watch. So it's like, and also doing this now for so long, not that I'm anywhere near, the kind of where you are in this game, but I'm just like realizing how many pieces need to like go together in the right order to actually have like a really good video. right? It's like everybody's out to get, oh, the algorithm doesn't like me, and it's like, nah, generally your content just sucks then. And that's just the hard truth, and you got to get better. And when your content's better and you resonate with people, you get the views. It's not that complicated. It's just, that's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, and there is algorithm aspects to it, but it's viewer retention. If someone begins watching your video and if a high percentage of people who begin watching your video continue watching it to the end, YouTube will promote it, whether it's a short or a long, unless you start talking about how if you sunbathe you'll cure COVID and all these things that they'll want to censor. Then maybe they won't promote your video, even if it has a really good viewer retention rate. But as long as there's no reason for them to censor it, then you just want a good viewer retention rate. And I don't know, for shorts, it's good practice. First of all, the algorithm is less competitive. So for long videos, you're competing with a million other established creators, all of which have giant marketing teams with tons of experience creating thumbnails and then creating super well edited videos. Whereas shorts, you're competing with maybe like 2 or 3% of those people. And so that's worth noting. The algorithm's weird, so it's almost like winning. Like the algorithm still responds to viewer retention rate and how satisfied the person is at the end of your video. But if you have a good viewer retention rate, there's the chance that your video will blow up more than with a long video. I know this isn't necessarily video editing, but it's a little relevant, I think.
No, we don't have to just stay on editing, because I think you covered most of it, which is like, it doesn't really matter the software. Maybe, learn how to do a couple different cuts, right? Like a J cut or a regular jump cut. But it really comes down to
but don't even worry about that.
Exactly.
That's
so
it's
more intermediate.
You can do it
advanced.
without that.
Exactly. So I guess it is almost a better way to transition to. Maybe let's just talk about like the different platforms that you're on. There's TikTok, and then there's YouTube Shorts, plus a little bit of the YouTube Long. So do you think that Shorts, if somebody's trying to start a channel, because I have a lot of friends who are trying to start channels, a lot of them are a little bit older individuals who way better Spearos than, any of us. And I'm always trying to encourage them. It's like, you guys are the OGs, you guys have all the knowledge. It's just that knowledge doesn't necessarily get translated to the new people or the people who are interested in the sport, because either you're not online and that's where everybody is, or whatnot. So if they're going to try and start a channel, or if you had to start a channel from scratch, what do you recommend people do to get started?
Start is the first thing, is to just start and know that your video isn't going to be that good when you start. No one's ever is. And also be comforted in the fact that no one's going to watch your videos that aren't that good. So like don't worry about it. Only your friends will see it. And the only way to learn is to practice. Like, I don't know, it's the same as spearfishing. You can read about spearfishing a ton, but until you start doing it, you're never going to get better. And you can read about it for a month straight, or you can go out for one day and learn more in that one day of doing it. And it's the same for video editing. And yeah, there's so many people who have so much knowledge about spearfishing and about cool places to go, or places people should go, or techniques or gear or fish or all that. Honestly, a simple way to start is to maybe like write down the information you want to share, and then either say it into a camera or do it in a voiceover, but don't have you speaking to the camera be the whole video. Like have video overlay. It's called B-roll, video overlay of the thing you're talking about. If you have a lot of thoughts on yellowfin tuna, don't just have, hi, my name's Leonard, this is my channel, today I'm going to talk about yellowfin tuna. Like show pictures or videos that you have of yellowfin tuna being speared, just so it's interesting. And back to the editing techniques, one thing that I usually do, and I got this from that YouTube channel I mentioned in an episode a couple of days ago with you, was Hayden Hillier-Smith. He talks about how short the clips need to be. This guy edits vlogs for Logan Paul, who's super famous YouTuber. Whether or not you like his videos, they have a very high viewer retention rate. And I think he says his average cut when he's editing is like 1 second. And so if he ever has a clip that's longer than 1 second, it's very deliberate. And that's crazy. That's so short. My average cut is not 1 second. Although I try and keep it shorter, I think about that. And my average cut is probably about 2 seconds, with the exception of when I'm about to shoot a fish, because there's a lot of anticipation in that moment, and you want anticipation. So if the fish is, you can see it on the GoPro and you have your gun there and you're clearly lining up, you might need 10 or 15 seconds for that shot, for that clip. And that's the only exception usually I'll do. It's got to be deliberate if your clip is long. I feel like I'm rambling again, but for editing, if you're diving down from the surface, just cut that out. Like it's especially because a first-person view of somebody diving down is not very exciting. With the exception of if you're trying to teach someone something, if you're trying to show someone how long it takes to get down to the bottom, that's important information. For me, I would recommend doing a voiceover for that part, or something. Think of something interesting to do for the dive down. But if you're just uploading your clip, cut that out if you can, and get to the interesting part.
No, that's perfect.
People have ADD.
No, they do. And then have you explored any kind of, like, I know you do a lot of the story structure, right? So you kind of take us all on adventures and you go do it. And then have you tried doing any more just like educational, where it might not have necessarily a story arc per se, but it's more kind of, this is like, say for example somebody wanted to teach, it's like, oh, the 5 tips for this. Is it just keep the clips and the tips really concise and that's what they should be thinking about, but maybe not have a story? I don't know if that's making sense, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have a video, as you know, which I showed you, of an educational video, like how I tell a story, where there's not really a beginning, middle, end. Maybe there's a little bit. I don't know. But I think there's a big market on YouTube for top 5 tips, top 10 tips of this or that. Arguably, I think it definitely was the case. I'm not sure about now, but probably. I think you maybe had a more chance of getting a viral hit with 10 interesting tips on how to do something than your actual vlog or fishing story. What's an example of this? There's this guy, Peter McKinnon, who's a YouTube creator. I think he does mostly photography, but I think most of his viral videos are like top 10 ways to get a better photo, top 5 ways to improve your Instagram game, top whatever, top this, and it's photography tutorials. And those have millions and millions and millions of views and earn him the most amount of money and get him the most amount of new subscribers. But then he has these vlog videos of him doing his thing, going out to take his photos or whatever, which still get a lot of views because he has a big audience, but they don't go viral the same way as his how-tos. So if you do a how-to, just keep viewer retention in mind when you're doing it. A great way to learn is to watch popular YouTubers. Like not me, but like I'm popular for spearfishing, but like I mean like real expert video editors like Yes Theory tells amazing stories. Honestly, watch Logan Paul's vlogs. They're so well edited, and honestly, I feel the pull to not swipe away when I'm watching them, and I don't know how the editors do it, but what are other YouTubers?
I think you touched on one thing that I think is so important, is like, don't think that you're going to be good at YouTube if you don't consume YouTube. Right? Like if you're not watching YouTube and seeing what people are doing on that platform, it's not like you're magically just going to come in and bless everybody, all the viewers, with like something super interesting necessarily. Like that's what I'm just like, it took me a long time to realize that, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I've watched some Netflix, I've watched some channels here and there, but maybe I should be able to do this. But the more and more I watch YouTube, I'm like, oh, the nuances kind of start seeping in. It's like, oh, the attention span is different on that platform, because every platform's different, and XYZ.
They're all different, yeah. Yeah, YouTube's a new kind of, it's so different than TV. Like I think there was movies back in the day. You go to a movie, even before that. I think Aaron Sorkin talks about this in his masterclass, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I think he talks about it, where there was the theater, and you go to the theater, and you get dressed up, and you go out to dinner first. There's no way you're going to leave that theater unless you're horribly offended. You're never going to leave the theater. And then the next one is the movie theater. You got up, you went all the way to the movies, you paid $10 for a ticket. You're probably not going to leave that either. The movie's got to really suck. And then you're watching a movie on your couch. You paid $4 for it. You're probably not going to leave it. You paid $4. You decided on this movie, but you might. It's easy to leave it. You could just get another movie. It's only $4. And then there's a TV show or a Netflix show. And like, you're watching it, you're invested in it. The story's kind of long, but it is just a channel click away. And then there's YouTube. And when you're watching a YouTube video, there is email notifications coming down, text message notifications, people calling you, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook. Every single application is sending you a message while they're watching that video. And within the YouTube app on your phone, there's an unlimited list of other videos which the algorithm knows you are going to want to click. And that's you're competing with. You're competing with every single thing in the world. And you have to have your video be more entertaining than that at every moment. And so, like, while there can be a slow moment in a movie more easily, be careful with the slow moments in your video, because if that person also gets text from their girlfriend in that slow moment, they might feel less inclined to ignore her and answer her later than to keep watching your video. It's just different. And if you don't like that, like some people don't like that. Oh, I'm not making for ADD. The young generation has attention deficit disorder. Then maybe you should look more into making a documentary type video, because that is how the YouTube algorithm works. There's a graph when you start making videos, and I think 100% of videos it's a slow decline. Like, no one who starts your video is gonna. Most people, the amount of people who start your video is always going to be higher than the amount of people who finish it, but you want to make those numbers be as similar as possible. And you can see after you start another good reason to start just practicing making videos and to just do it even though you know they're going to be bad because you're starting off is to you can see when the videos are boring. And I still check on all of my videos. If I make a stupid joke, often I'll see that graph, it drops. And if I do a montage with music for too long, it often drops. If I ramble too much, the graph drops. And these people aren't consciously deciding, oh, this person is a boring creator, this person isn't good at video editing. No, they're not even thinking at all. Their mind isn't stimulated in that moment. And they don't realize what they're doing. They're in robot mode watching their screen, and they don't even know why they're bored at that moment, and they go. So don't take it personally if it drops. I'm telling that to myself too, because I'm constantly taking it personally. But they're not. It's not a personal thing. Just you'll find that most people get bored at the same moments. And then in your next video, try not to have it be like that in that moment. And you don't need a huge amount of people to get that data. Or data, however you pronounce it. Like a small amount of people, like you'll learn from something. And I think it's hard, and I know it's easy for me to say this, but if you really, really do want to start getting videos and making videos and getting traction and learning how to do it better, then make your video and share it on Reddit and forums, and people are going to be mean to you, and it's gonna hurt, but it's a great way to get more people to watch it and get that information on which parts of the video are interesting or boring, beyond just waiting for the YouTube algorithm to pick you up. Because if you're a new channel, it will take a while for YouTube to start trusting you. But if you want to get that information immediately, share it out to the world, and people will be mean to you about it, and they'll never stop being mean to you about it as long as you're creating videos. But you just ignore them and get the data from their watch time.
I'm glad you said pretty much be consistent. Like, if you're going to start anything, just like make a plan and just a schedule, just start sticking to it. Because I think that's where people drop off in that retention curve of just being a creator itself, right? It's like, how many people start, but then how many people don't commit to it over time. It's probably the same kind of retention graph per se. So just try to stay at it, and over time you'll figure it out.
Yeah, consistency is so important. And I'm not perfect at it, and no one is, right? Like, but you can always practice at being better, being more consistent. And if you look at, for me, I looked at it as like, I don't know, if you want to be a lawyer, what do you have to do? You have to do 4 years of your bachelor degree, then another 3 years of law school. So that's 7 years of training and what, $500,000 maybe of school fees. And then your entry level law position will earn you maybe, if you have a good law firm, maybe $100,000 a year, but maybe less. I guess it depends on where you are in the world. Or if you look at being a doctor, it's a similar amount of school, a similar amount of money to get to school, and then not a very high starting salary after 7 years of training for it, or maybe it's more for a doctor, or even a real estate agent. You probably need your bachelor's degree, maybe not, but probably. And then it takes you at least a year of hard work, all day, every day, cold calling to build a book for real estate or any job. If you look at it as YouTube or creating videos as the same way, like think, okay, if I do this like a student would do it at law school, like I make these videos for 7 years, all day, every day, the way a law student studies to be a lawyer, then at the end of 7 years, if you're really consistent, I feel like you have a higher chance of earning more than what that lawyer's starting salary is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree 100%. To be honest, I look at any kind of content creation in the guise of like potentially becoming an expert after a certain amount of time, or whatever industry that you're in, you will be looked at an expert if you're in it for a certain amount of time, is one of the lowest risk type business ventures and ways to getting, livable, if not like escape velocities type wealth, is because it's like it's nearly free to play. Now you have to compete with everybody on a global scale, but the riches are in the niches. So if you find a niche that you're in that you enjoy more than most people, that's your competitive advantage. Like even if it was like, say, spearfishing, there's going to be a certain number of people who love spearfishing and they're creative, or they want to share what they're learning, that are like Lenny, right? It's like he loves it so much that he's going to do it every day, or he's going to do it, practice the content creation piece of it every day, and he might go a couple times a week, whatever. But that's a competitive advantage to somebody who, isn't in the niche, but you're still just vying for eyeballs. So there's a lot of people out there who vibe with, hunting or, that kind of thing. And then there's advertisers, and that's really who's paying the content creator. So I just think it's so low risk that you don't have to take $500,000 in debt. That's all I'm trying to say. Is like you don't have to take on debt to then hopefully like the profession. If you don't like the profession in YouTube, you stop and you're not in debt. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
There's no risk, right? Buy a $200 action camera, right? And
Yeah.
that's the only upfront cost. Video editing software for you probably have a computer already, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think that's a perfect place for us to stop, because tomorrow I want to talk about gear, and going into some of the stuff that you use in terms of underwater cameras and all that jazz. So come back tomorrow, guys. If you want to see and reach out to Lenny, check out Aquatic Apes on all the socials. All right, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow.